Imagine living in a country occupied by a powerful enemy. Your streets are patrolled by soldiers, your neighbors disappear after being questioned. Every conversation could be overheard. Every act of resistance could cost you your life. Now imagine choosing to fight back anyway, not with a rifle, not on a battlefield, but by helping hunted soldiers escape right under the nose of one of the most powerful armies in the world. This is the story of Philippe Baucq, a Belgian architect who became one of the quiet heroes of World War I, a man whose greatest weapon was courage, and whose final act of defiance turned him into a legend. The year was 1914. World War I has just begun. Germany launched a massive invasion through Belgium as part of its plan to attack France. Belgium resisted fiercely, but the German military eventually occupied much of the country. For ordinary Belgians, life changed overnight. German troops controlled cities and roads. Travel was restricted. Suspicion was everywhere. Meanwhile, thousands of Allied soldiers found themselves trapped behind the enemy lines. British, French, and Belgian servicemen who became separated from their units suddenly faced a grim reality. If captured, they would spend the rest of their life in prison camps. Many desperate searched for a way home. Most never found one, but some were lucky, because hidden within occupied Belgium, a network of brave civilians was beginning to form, and one of its key organizers was Philippe Baucq. Before the war, Philippe Baucq lived a very different life. He was an architect from Brussels. By all accounts, he was educated, respected, and deeply committed to his community. Nothing about his profession suggested he would one day become a resistance hero. But war has a way of changing people. As German occupation tightened its grip on Belgium, Baucq watched his country suffer. Many people choose survival, some choose silence, but Baucq chose resistance. He stood that open rebellion would be crushed immediately. Instead, he joined a secret effort that relied on intelligence, planning, and trust. The same qualities that made a successful architect would soon help save lives. Soon, Baucq became involved in an underground network dedicated to helping Allied soldiers escape occupied territory. The mission was incredibly dangerous. A soldier would first need a safe place to hide. Then someone had to provide food. Someone else would arrange transportation. Others would guide the soldiers across checkpoints. Eventually, the escapees would be moved toward the Dutch border. The Netherlands was neutral during World War I. If a soldier could reach Dutch territory, he had a chance to make his way back to Allied forces. One step carried enormous risk. One mistake, one informant, one careless conversation, and the entire network could collapse. Yet Baucq continued again and again. One of the most important people in the network was Edith Cavell. Cavell was a British nurse working in Brussels. Today, she was remembered as one of the most famous humanitarian figures of the First World War. But she did not act alone. People like Philippe Baucq helped make the operation possible. Together with other members of the network, they sheltered Allied soldiers and coordinated their movement through occupied Belgium. Their operation required extraordinary trust. Many participants barely knew one another, yet everyone understood the stakes. If captured, execution was a real possibility. Still, they continued, because every soldier who escaped represented hope, a small victory against occupation, and a reminder that courage could survive even under tyranny. Philippe Baucq's legendary moment was not a single dramatic battle. It was something arguably harder. For months, he repeatedly risked his life to help Allied soldiers evade capture and return to freedom. Think about what that means. Every knock on the door could have been the authorities. Every meeting could have been a trap. Every soldier hiding in a safe house could have been exposed to the entire network. Yet, Baucq continued operating despite the danger. His action helped sustain one of the most important escape operations in occupied Belgium. Many soldiers who might otherwise have spent the war in captivity instead found a path home. The soldiers received much of the attention, but without civilians like Philippe Baucq, those escapees would never have happened. His heroism wasn't measured in moments, it was measured in choices. The choice to help, the choice to continue, the choice to resist again and again. Eventually, German authorities became suspicious. Occupation governments relied heavily on informants, surveillance, and intelligence gathering. Over time, investigators began uncovering pieces of the escape network. Arrests followed. The net was closing. In 1915, Philippe Baucq was arrested. So were Edith Cavell and several others connected to the operation. The German military launched a major investigation. Evidence was gathered. Witnesses were questioned. The underground network that saved so many lives was now fighting for its own survival, but the odds were overwhelming. The defendants were brought before a German military court. The charges were serious. Helping enemy soldiers escape during wartime was considered a grave offense by the occupying authorities. International appeals were made. Diplomats attempted to intervene. Many hoped the sentence would be reduced. For Philippe Baucq, those hopes would not be enough. The court sentenced him to death. He knew what that meant. Yet, accounts of those final days suggest remarkable composure. The architect who had spent his life building things now faced the destruction of his own future, but his sacrifice was already becoming something larger than himself. On October 12, 1915, Philippe Baucq was executed by firing squad. Edith Cavell was executed on the same day. News of the executions spread rapidly across Europe and beyond. Many people reacted with shock and outrage. The deaths transformed both Baucq and Cavell into symbols, not symbols of military power, but symbols of moral courage. They had chosen to help others despite knowing the risk, and they paid the ultimate price. More than a century later, Philippe Baucq is not as famous as generals or political leaders, yet his story remains powerful. He reminds us that history is not shaped by only those who command armies. Sometimes it is shaped by ordinary people who refuse to look away. An architect, a nurse, a teacher, a shopkeeper, people who decide that helping others matters more than protecting themselves. That is what made Philippe Baucq extraordinary. He never led a charge across a battlefield. He never ruled a nation. He never commanded an army. But when soldiers needed help, he answered. When fear demanded silence, he resisted. And when the moment came to choose between safety and principle, he chose principle. That choice made him a hero. The next time you hear about World War I, remember that not every hero carried a weapon. Some carried secret message, some opened their homes, some guided strangers to safety, and some, like Philippe Baucq, used courage as their greatest weapon. His life was cut short, but his example survived. And more than 100 years later, his story still makes the same question: what would you risk to help someone else? If you enjoyed this story of forgotten heroes from history, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more incredible true stories from the past. Until next time, keep exploring history.
Subscribe Ancient Worlds for more. Like, share, and follow.